Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Theron Howard. I have our IT department chair on, Linda Donaldson, and we have a special guest for you this afternoon, a colleague of mine, Anishka Mendez, who is a cybersecurity expert. And I am, again, Theron Howard. I'm the IT advisory chair, and we want to welcome all of you to another Speak IT event for the fall of 2026. Now, just to kind of forewarn you all, this isn't going to be a presentation. This is going to be more of a conversation. So I'm looking for you guys to turn your cameras on. I'm looking for you to ask Ms. Mendez that question that you are burning to find out. You know, like she's a cybersecurity guru in my eyes. And how did she get there? What is she doing? Those types of questions, and maybe what you need to do or what you have to do to get to where she is and continue to aspire to upskill yourself. Now, you can ask questions in the chat box, but I would highly suggest and recommend you ask her directly what you want to ask and how you want to say that, because all I'm going to do is read what you say, and it may not provide the same impact if you come out and ask her yourself. So I'm going to turn things over right now to Anishka to introduce herself, maybe tell you a little bit about herself and how she got to where she is today, and also what she's doing tomorrow to not only just continue in the role she's in, but also what she has to do to continue to upskill herself to maintain that role and to move up to the next level in her career objectives. So, Anishka, I'm going to turn it over to you, please, and knock them down hard.
All right, thank you, Theron. So hi guys, I'm Anishka. As Theron said. So to give a brief background, I'm from Buffalo, New York. My parents are from Jamaica. I'm actually the first in my family to go to college. I started at UB for computer science, but I ended up transferring, went to SUNY Canton, and there I got my Bachelor of Science in Cybersecurity. And then I also am now in the process of getting my master's. I'll be graduating in December. So getting my Master of Science in Cybersecurity with a sorry about that. So getting my Master of Science in Cybersecurity with a software security concentration. And now just to kind of go into my work history a bit. So my first job was actually while I was still in college. I started in an information security research lab while I was at Canton. While I was there, they found I was good at coding, so I was building web scrapers and using that to collect publicly available social media information. And then we were using that to build a tool that uses AI to help users behave safely online. So it was really cool. I got to scrape Facebook. It's not so easy to do nowadays, but it's a good experience. And then they saw how strong I was with programming when I did that role. So they kind of led into my next role, which was as a full stack engineer at a startup. So it was a startup that had like funding from the National Science Foundation and was like partnered with the Department of Defense. And long story short, we were making a cybersecurity training tool. So one that's used for both the Department of Defense, but also can be tailored to use for schools as well. So it's like gamified learning and more of like a fun approach to teaching people cybersecurity. Um, and I did quite a bit there. You'll find if you do work at a startup, I like to say it's good for the chops just because they tend to be smaller, so you get to do a lot more in your position. So not only was I doing full stack development, so like working on the front end and the back end of the application, so the APIs and the database, I also did quite a bit of the DevOps work. So building the CI/CD pipeline and all that. So to automate our deployments, which were all deployed to Amazon EC2 instances, setting up the web application firewall, lots of good stuff. And I also was like the principal investigator on the grant we received from the National Science Foundation there. So got to talk to a lot of really smart people over there. Um, so I really did enjoy the role, but I found that I wanted to move to a bigger company at some point. One just where I would have more people around me to learn from and maybe with the potential to climb higher possibly. So long story short, I was on LinkedIn and a recruiter reached out to me and had told me that M&T Bank was looking for basically full stack engineers who were willing to learn Salesforce. So I, did the interview course and ended up getting the role. It was quite the experience because we had to do like a 3-month Salesforce boot camp and like get all our certifications in order for us to get hired. Um, but because I had already, learned, I picked up AWS pretty quickly at my role before. It already was already comfortable with Azure. To me, it's kind of seemed like getting another cloud technology under my tool belt. And while I was there, I was doing a combination of it was like development work to help support the bank complying with regulations. And then on top of that, because I have the cybersecurity education, I was doing a lot of the cybersecurity work for my old team at the bank. So, just taking point on taking action to better the security posture of the app. So doing things like making sure in the pipeline we were, doing static code analysis, dynamic analysis, making sure we're forwarding logs to the CM, lots of good stuff like that. Um, and while I was there, I did I found a few vulnerabilities, and at one point it did catch the attention of the Chief Information Security Officer. And Darren could tell you guys about it, but long story short, found a security misconfiguration, fixed it at my team, and then also helped cyber fix it on the other teams in the bank that use Salesforce. Um, CISO came to see me, which was I thought was nice, and then shortly after, I ended up switching over directly into the cyber department. So I'm now here as a cybersecurity engineer. I see we do have a question, so we want me to pause here and take it.
Before you go there, Aneska, one thing, two things you did not tell them was this. Aneska and I used to work on some agile development teams, and she did this little company exercise and found some cybersecurity vulnerabilities. And then what happened about 30 days later, after she did that, I'm saying to myself, that department's going to come and steal her. And probably about 30 days later, she was offered an opportunity in the cybersecurity department, which to me was an excellent opportunity for her. She showed a group what she could do. She wasn't really looking to leave our department, so she says. But I was very happy and proud of her to see that she showed another group the seriousness and the depth of her abilities, and they basically came. The cybersecurity group came and stole her from us. So I am still to this day tearing when I see her because we loved her in the group that she was in. She was a super person, developer, one of our stronger software engineers, and I'm proud of her. The fact that another group saw that and basically stole her from us, but that just shows the level of technical abilities that this lady has. And again, she's here to share that with you, but I'm not going to ask her to elaborate and keep telling you everything. It's going to be on you guys to ask her the questions that you want to know. And if you don't ask her the questions that you know, this will be the shortest WebEx that you guys have ever been on. Okay. So I'm going to ask Michael. You said, I have a question about vulnerability. Do you have your camera on? Number one. And number two, Ask your question, please.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Michael.
Hello, thank you for letting me talk. My question was, I don't want to, I guess my question has a lot of context behind it, but I want to make it very short because it's your talk, right? So I have a friend who's also a very gifted coder, and basically his problem was that he was finding that nothing was working the way everyone thought it would. So he found all these vulnerabilities, and he found when you try to bring it up to the manager, it's like they don't want to hear it. Just do what we say. Stop showboating. Quit, you know, being impressive. Um, how do you approach, I guess my question is, how do you approach this to management who kind of doesn't care? I guess, sorry to be, that's such a, lame question, but
No, it's not a lame question at all, and it's something I do run into quite a bit. Maybe not so much now. I don't know. You kind of will find sometimes that management, like product owners, sometimes their priorities are not always quite aligned with where ours are. Or sometimes they might not even understand the severity of the thing you're trying to show them. Um, Something that was helpful for me was just kind of, I'm not saying be obnoxious, but I'm kind of like a pain in their side until they do listen, and I will go out of my way to reach out to, the right teams in cyber or just teams in risk in my case, in my job, just to pull them in and get eyes on it if I find that my direct team isn't taking action on something. And sometimes, depending on the type of vulnerability it is, if the person's able to kind of like demonstrate it to the manager or whoever's pushing back, that can be helpful. So one of the vulnerabilities I'd found, I won't get into like the nitty gritty of it because I'm not supposed to disclose too much. But long story short, I found I could query for social security numbers. I could query for quite a bit of data, but that was the one of the types of data that stood out the most. So that was what I had shown my manager, and that was kind of what made him take it more seriously or kind of escalate things a bit.
Yeah, if I could chime in, this is Bill Schriever, PCI, CIO, 35 years in the IT industry. Michael, good question. I would just add this. Management is management. You're going to have good management. You're going to have bad management. You're going to have good employees. You're going to have bad employees. You're going to have employees that follow best practices, and you're going to have employees that don't follow best practices. And I think that there are, as Anishka said, you just continue to move the data forward so that management can do what they will with that. And it's not really our individual jobs if management does not want to for whatever reason. And there could be a host of so many different reasons why management would or would not move information forward or take action or not action. Right at the end of the day, when management takes decides not to move forward, that is a business risk. So at some point, whether they've conferred with a lot of people or not, they're taking a risk. And I would just say that most employees, we all have to be professionals, period. End of story. And if you're not happy with management and you don't see any resolution, then it may or may not be the right place for that particular employee.
Yeah, excellent
Has
point.
nothing to do with cybersecurity. It's just management, right? And so you want to work for people that you trust and respect. I
yeah,
don't know if that helps you, Michael,
yeah,
but
just to
And
add on to that
also,
real
I
quick, the management even pulled him aside and said, stop, doing all this extra stuff. You're a great employee, but you have to keep your nose down. And that was just kind of demotivating, you don't really care to go to work
yeah,
so much.
I can understand that. I could totally understand it. That is sometimes a difficult pill to swallow. But that then, in my opinion, just my opinion, that
True.
individual has to make a decision whether that's the right place for them or not.
Thank you
yeah,
for your two
excellent
cents.
point. And I've been in like that exact same boat. So I do certainly feel for your friend. I will say just certainly don't get discouraged by it. I know I had points where I felt kind of discouraged. I'm like, oh, well, I found this and no one even cares. Why do I care? But like the work your friend's doing, like going above and beyond to make sure you guys are covered is excellent, and you should never stop doing that. I'm also a fan of keeping a pretty meticulous paper trail. So if that does come back up later on, like your friend will know he's covered and you have the evidence right there showing that they did something and they tried to address it.
Okay. Well, thank you both. And just to tell the audience too, there are some additional professionals on this call, like Bill Shriver, myself, and some other professionals that are part of the IT advisory committee. And we're all professionals that have been in the IT field. I would probably say the average length of time for most of us is probably about 20 plus years of experience. So when you get comments from people like Bill Shriver, that is a gentleman who's been in this environment for quite some time, and he's giving you key points of things. I've got 4 people who have questions. I'm going to start with you, Peter. Then I'm going to go to PG. Then I'm going to go to, I believe it's Zico, Ashley, and then Moit. So, Peter, please give your question very briefly, and then we'll entertain that.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, let me just take this time. My name is Peter Kakulu. I actually work for M&T Bank, and then as a technology support, I work on new hires, and then basically it's very pleasure to meet you, Mendez, again, and then thanks for your time. I know Mendez, and then I actually got connected with her on the Zoom, and then she connected me with other cybersecurity professionals, and which I really appreciate you for your help. My question was this, as somebody who's trying, say, let's say, for example, students who are trying to grow and climb the ladder to be a cybersecurity professional, what are those, the foundations, the basic knowledge that a cybersecurity students would start practicing before he or she graduates? And then what is fairly common language, like programming language, that is very common used in cybersecurity that a student can focus on instead of like focusing on different languages that doesn't even still exist, that even sometimes is going to give you skills, but that those are like COBOL that we don't still use now. But what are those updated languages that are still used? And then my other question is that goes to Bill actually. Last time he was also on Zoom. He been like encouraging students and all of us to learn like networking skills, connection skills. Like Bill, thanks for serving, in technology field. If you had a mentor, what were the best 3 lessons you learned from your mentor that all of us we can learn from that during your career? Thank you.
Go ahead, Anishka. You can start now. Wrap up
Okay.
on that question.
You asked about 3 there. Let me get to the first one. First one was, I guess getting a good foundational knowledge, just even get started in cybersecurity. I think content-wise, you'd want, the material that's covered on CompTIA A plus, Network plus, and Security plus. So even if you don't actually get those certifications, just like generally the content that is covered in those certification exams. Like I had my bachelor's in cybersecurity. I had really great professors when I was in school, so that was all baked into the curriculum already. But so it's just kind of your IT fundamentals, your networking fundamentals, and then it gets you into the basics of cyber. I think your second one was about relevant languages. I'd say some of the most relevant programming languages right now would be Python, and I'm talking specifically cybersecurity. Certainly Python is up there, and I feel like you're kind of expected to at least be able to know how to make your way through a PowerShell script in Bash. So just generally Python or other scripting type languages. But something when I was an undergrad, one of my professors told me was that we should try to learn at least one compiled language, just because they do function a bit differently. And then also just like kind of learning the basics of web technology. So even if you don't go overboard the JavaScript, just like learning things like HTML, JavaScript, CSS if you want it. And that of course that is more helpful with specifically finding and securing web applications. And then I think your third one was about mentorship, and I'm gonna let Bill jump in if you'd like.
Yeah, Peter, what a great set of questions, and thank you for them. So beneficial. Here's from a mentor perspective, here's something to consider. Is everyone, whether they're if they've been working longer and they're in a management position or a peer position and have been in their position for a period of time, everyone has something to give. Everyone has something to teach. And from an IT perspective, what I have learned in my many years is everything falls into three categories. It's either people, process, or technology. I got involved in IT because I was just genuinely interested in technology. And I just thought it was cool and it was fun. But being cool and having fun does not add value to the business. Businesses don't survive to entertain me, the employee. Businesses survive when employees add value to their departments and to their managers and to their company so that they can make a profit. And if they do it in a right, honest, respectful way, then others will pay for their services or goods. But everything in IT can be brought down to it's either a people thing, training, that type of thing, management, a process thing, how whatever it is you're doing works within the organization, the process, or it's just technology and it's a focus of improving or implementing and managing technology. And if you remember those three things, anything that an IT person works on is going to fall in one of those areas. And in the most cases, when you're working on a technology thing, if you and or your management or your project team isn't concerned about process or concerned about people communicating to people, then technology doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I have learned that people, process, and technology and putting things in their lane and understanding where they fit, and they all fit together to assist the organization move forward in whatever they're doing, whether it's a project, whether it's a new product, whether it's cybersecurity, it all has a fit. So I hope that's of value.
Thank you, Bill. PG, you have a question? Mr. Green, you still there? Okay, maybe not. Then we'll move on.
Also, sorry,
I
for
hope
Peter, did we fully answer Peter's question?
I'm sorry.
Did we fully answer Peter's question if he's still on?
Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you so much to you all. Yeah, it was
Okay.
answered.
Sorry,
All right. Since PJ Green isn't responding, I'm going to go, and I hope I'm pronouncing the name properly. Is it Zico? Zico?
Zico. Yeah, Zico. That's how you say it.
Okay, go ahead, Zico.
So I'm asking this question because I'm somebody that kind of has to learn a lot of this stuff on my own in hopes of getting into an engineering role. And I was wondering if there were any e-learning platforms that you may have used at a point in time that helped you get a foundation in engineering.
Yeah, actually. Okay, so, and you're specifically referring to like more software engineering side of things? Or just engineering in general?
Well, just like the general things required of somebody that works as a cybersecurity engineer. Like I know one thing I have to get a better understanding of is the like back end of everything. So that's something I've kind of been sifting through different learning platforms and methods to trying to figure out the best way to learn it. So I was wondering if you
Yeah.
had any advice about that.
For that and with programming in general, I'm a fan of Udemy. There's some free videos on YouTube, and I do have a subscription for Code with Mosh. He's one of my favorites. And then I think just generally, like, while you're going through these platforms, if you try to do like projects or just things where your hands are on the keyboard, where you're actually building it out, I think that'll also help a lot.
Definitely. definitely. Okay.
Gotcha. And you said something about you started out basically doing some open source intelligence. Is that something that you're still involved with to any capacity?
I don't do too much of that now.
Gotcha. Okay. I had a project with that previously and it ended up kind of being a lot. So but okay, that was my question.
And I think I
Okay.
see
Well,
you also asked, is learning the backend engineering sufficient for working in cyber?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I just wonder like how useful it is to know, things like basically like web design and user interfaces and things like that. I don't know how useful people consider that to be generally speaking.
yeah, no, that's a good question. I'm gonna start by saying like having the programming experience at all, like whether it's front end, back end, or full stack, is gonna give you a leg up in the field. Because you'll find there are a lot of cybersecurity professionals who are kind of seems like afraid of code. Like on my team, I want to say I'm the coding monkey, but effectively, yeah, like it's punted to me or the other engineer in my team who knows how to code. And then I find that when you do have that background, when you work with a new product, it kind of makes you have a better understanding of it. So, for example, CyberArk is a tool I have to use, and that's just like a platform for, managing privileged accounts or shared accounts in general. But something that was really helpful as we were setting the software up was that I had that background. So I was able to do things like, look under the hood, like look at the code, see what APIs it was calling out to. And then from the front end, I was able to look at like the network section of the dev tools to see, to get more information when things weren't always very apparent.
Anishka, I'd like to add to Zico's question. There's a difference between coding and best practices, right? And in your role thus far in your career, how has NIST or the National Institute of Standards and Technology played in your learning from a standpoint of cybersecurity?
Um,
Cybersecurity framework, etc.
yeah, so a lot of those are actually like ingrained into a lot of the tools we use. So for example, we'll have vulnerability scanners. They'll scan the code and they'll kind of link you back to the applicable standard. Um, and we have a few things like that baked into it, but definitely very relevant.
okay. All right. Thank you. I'm going to move on. Ashley, you have a question?
Hi, how is everybody?
Good. Yourself?
Good. So I have a question. One of my students asked a question. It's we got a lot of kids here. I work at a high school at Burger High School, and I do college and career. We have a few kids that's interested in computer science. I'm gonna ask a question. What made you want to get started with tech, and was this something that you always wanted to do? So they just
Yeah.
trying to figure out what they really want to do as far as with computer and technology. A lot of kids are saying technology, but what made you really want to do it? I have one of my students here and two students asked questions. So.
Oh, that's a great question. So I will say, like off the bat, like when I was in high school, I didn't quite think this is where I was going to land. I knew I was going to land somewhere in STEM. And like even when I first started at UB, I feel like I changed my majors around quite a bit, where until I landed at computer science, where I was happy. Um, but kind of what sparked that for me was this is a story I try not to tell, but gets brought up sometimes with my friends. When I was in elementary school, I'd gotten in trouble because we had this learning platform. And long story short, I got my teacher's password, went on there, you know, did privilege escalation, so elevated the right to my own account, was on there like making
What?
classrooms, just changing all the settings. And then I only got caught because one of my friends, who I also made a teacher on the platform, told his friend who told on us, which I, of course, I needed to get caught and get in trouble for that. And I did get banned from the computers for a month. But I feel like I was always just kind of very naturally curious about it.
Okay. And I thought you were sweet and innocent. Hmm. Okay. All right. Ashley, what other questions might your students have?
They asked a text question, like, what made you get started? Oh, how long did you go to school for? That was the other question, because some students are interested in going to a community college, versus they want to know what's the difference. Should I go to a community college, get my associates, or do I need to go get my bachelor's?
I know that's a really good question. I feel like it comes up quite a bit. So I personally, I have a bachelor's degree, so 4 years of college, and I'm finishing up my master's, so it's a 2-year, but you don't necessarily need to do that. It's more like icing on the cake, if that makes sense. I also have some coworkers who don't have degrees at all, and some of them, they have certifications. I will say if I could do things over, I think I would have started at a community college and gotten my associates and then taken it from there. You know what I mean? And then gotten my bachelor's and so forth. Just because I think, community colleges, they tend to be more affordable and they honestly do have a lot of they have great curriculum there. Even in my bachelor's program, I took like some of the credits were from ECC. I taken, statistics and like IT fundamentals at ECC and used those towards my bachelor's. So I feel like community college is certainly a good starting point. It's affordable, and I feel like it's because it's more affordable, it's kind of a nice opportunity for you to feel it out more and see if you're really enjoying it rather than diving straight in with the bachelor's. But of course, that's not to deter you guys from diving straight into a bachelor's. I did it, of course, which is there isn't like one set route to take to get into the field.
Okay.
True.
And one last question. Do you have to have like some students do like graphic design? Do you have to have like some type of portfolio to get like the job that you have at like M&T and things? Sorry.
Oh no, you're all good.
Yeah, do you have to have some type of portfolio built up like to get your type of job?
I don't know that you necessarily will have to, but I personally do. I have a GitHub account, and then on there I have a bunch of like projects. I made them all public, so when I'm applying to jobs, I can give them to the recruiters or HR, whoever, so they can get an idea of my technical ability there. So it's definitely good to have.
Ashley, I'd like to weigh in on that. I think Nishka made some really great points. I agree. Community college is a great place to start. That's not to take anything away from a 4-year. I think a bachelor's degree is great. I'll be honest. I started out with an associate's degree with a computer degree minor, and my associate's degree was in accounting. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about who you know and making contacts, and certainly more experience is better than no experience. That's why I think when you could start with an associate's degree or working towards associate's degree, get involved in technology somewhere. For example, very common to do some service desk work, PC technician work, some maybe more easier entry level type positions to start gaining technology. It's great to put computers together and do some basic technology things. It gives you a broad range of experience as you maybe shift over time to something different like database management or cybersecurity or whatever the case may be. But getting an associate's degree and getting some experience is what I would recommend, as Anishka I think was saying.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
All righty. I'm going to keep going if you don't mind, just looking at the time also. But just one little tip to add on to that. Regardless of when you enter into a field within the tech space, you will continue to have to learn. Okay, Anishka and we have additional technical training, managerial types of training, things to go through, compliance type of training. So your learning really never stops. You just get, in my opinion, more dangerous with technology, dangerous in a positive sense. So I'm going to go to Moit for your quick question, then Jonathan, then Michael. Then I do see one other lady asking a question. We've got about 17 minutes left. So Moit, be brief and specific in your question, and then we'll move on to Jonathan
And
next.
actually, sorry, let me just jump in really quick. Just well said there, and on that, we do you do need to continue to learn even once you're in the field, because technology is constantly changing.
Mhm.
So we're gonna when you're in the field, you need to be able to adapt to that and just continue learning. And as I'm about to graduate soon, that's something I worry about, just making sure I'm still taking the time to, make sure I'm keeping the iron sharp, so to speak. But sorry, I'll let you go with your question now.
Moit, over to you for your question, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Moet. This question is directed towards like all the professionals that are on this call. I know it's kind of inconvenient because of time, but I wanted to ask about the most recent AWS shutdown that actually happened. And I wanted all the professionals to give their take on it because I heard it was a DNS error, which was actually really.
Yes.
I did not expect that at all. But yeah.
Well, I mean, think about it. This is technology. Everybody attempts to put their technical updates in properly. We're humans. People make mistakes. Something wasn't properly tested, and it shut down multiple organizations worldwide, literally. I mean, we were impacted with some applications that we had, and what are you going to do? It's the key thing with most applications is testing. You've got to test it. You have to take it through multiple phases of testing. And even when you do that, you hope you tested the heck out of everything before it goes live in production. And if it fails, somebody's going to get their hand slapped.
Yeah, and we absolutely were impacted by it, and
Yep.
I think it's really interesting to look at because, with the increasing popularity of cloud technologies, you kind of see when AWS has a problem like that, just how many services and technologies are impacted by that. Because I mentioned CyberArk, for example. CyberArk's a tool we have, but CyberArk is run using AWS servers ultimately. So I think just looking at how widespread the impact is very interesting. And it will be interesting to continue to see as technologies continue to become used more and more.
Having been
This is
impacted by the AWS outage, I'll report this. It was not only DNS, it was infrastructure systems, and many sites needed to actually do a recovery and restore. So it was much more than DNS. And I will say this, there's things that you can't control, denial of service attacks, for example. But of course, Amazon's worldwide, and they have multiple ingress and regress points that that mitigate most denial of service attacks. However, what they cannot control completely is when people make human error mistakes in terms of what Theron was discussing, which is change management. IT is all about risk and risk management. Change management is about not just understanding the change, but planning the change in terms of implementing and what is your appropriate back out or regress. How do you get back to where you were? So there was a series of errors that were happening, namely that not only was it DNS, but what was happening is the error replicated itself nationwide or a portion of the country in their regions. And so this is why testing is so very, very important. And so change management and that is a whole industry within IT in and of itself. Managing change, like project management, is a true skill within IT. Change management is also a true skill within IT.
Yes, definitely. And those things you all will learn when you get exposed into the real world. There's application development, there's user systems, production testing. There's, as Bill said, there's change management. There's having back out and recovery plans. So if something fails, you may have to go back to how it was prior to the change that you wanted to implement. And then you got to figure out what went wrong before you try to reintroduce that change again. And then the biggest thing is, what was the impact to the customer and how much did that cost? And brand recognition, because companies look at that. Your brand is who you are. And if you put a negative image out there, you are now going to start to lose some customer base, and that customer base equals money, and leadership and shareholders are going to say, give me a person to blame. Okay. And it's a crazy environment, but this is business and it's not just technology. So I'm sorry. And you all will learn that and all of these flavors of things as you get into this business. It's just not about writing code. Okay. It's about writing code and servicing your customers and the business and making sure you understand and what change you're going to introduce and what problem it could potentially create. That could be a baby problem or it could be a big problem. And if you're a developer, you're almost like a doctor. So if something breaks, we don't have a problem calling the desk at 3 o'clock in the morning and saying, hey, your code broke, come in and fix it. Her job as a doctor is she's got to get in her little car, come to work, fix the problem, stay here and babysit it until we know that it worked. And then we'll tell her, okay, now that you're here, Anishka, you might as well stay for the normal shift. Okay, and just keep doing what you're doing and come back tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like also like it kind of emphasizes things like contingency planning. Like within contingency planning, you have disaster recovery. So for example, my teams, we have disaster recovery exercises to hypothetically help prepare us for situations like this. But
Mhm.
yeah, like when you're using the cloud like AWS, it's kind of important to remember, they use the shared responsibility model. So it's more or less just denoting, which parts of the infrastructure the customer is responsible for versus the cloud service provider. And you're going to find that, the data centers AWS has, or just generally cloud service providers have in general, they're not immune to problems. So this type of thing, it
It's
does
true.
happen.
And these things aren't immune to problems because of us humans.
Yeah.
Okay. Jonathan, I'm going to come over to you now for your question and then move over to Mike. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, well, I just had like actually a slight follow-up to that one, and then another small question, and I don't mind short answers, but what is the stress level like in a cybersecurity position, especially when we're talking about these inevitable events that happen, attacks that happen? Like, how does that affect you personally? And secondarily, my other part of my question would be how is the work-life balance in this career path? In terms of
That's a
overtime and also again along with stress. Sorry, go ahead.
absolutely a great question. I see Theron giggling over there because he knows what I've had to deal with. A lot of that's going to kind of depend on the team that you're on. So for me personally, the team I'm on, we're responsible for the application that holds like the software that holds all of the privileged credentials. So, those are the credentials people go and pull out when shit hits the fan, more or less. So because of that, we have to have at least 2 people on call at all times. You will find my team up working very late hours. You'll see us getting on super early, but it's not like that on every team. And then that being said, like, because I am on a critical infrastructure team, I feel like my work-life balance lately, especially with me finishing my master's, hasn't been too great. But that makes me want to just kind of emphasize to you guys that you should make sure you're taking the time to take care of yourselves and make sure you're making time for like things like hobbies and your families and your friends outside of work.
Right. Definitely. I mean, it's a work-life balance. And, when you leave here, I would say for me, when I leave here, I'm gone. Now my head is in a total different place. So you need to balance your work with your personal life so that you can recharge and get ready for the next day and also the weekend. Mike, I'm going to come back to you.
Theron, let me just add, I
ahead, Bill.
agree that you have to work hard at work-life balance, but make no mistake, if you're looking for more life than work, IT is not the place for you. At the end of the day, you just heard Anishka say that she's on call or her team's on call. I've worked in an on-call managed service provider position for all of my career. And as a manager, you're always on call 24/7. You're not on a rotation. You're just always available. And anything can happen at any time. And IT is not an industry for a more of a life balance than work balance. If you're not in it to win it, your work will take more of a priority from an IT perspective than your life balance. Just sorry to say it. That's just my opinion. That's been my life, and it has been challenging. But it can be done, as Theron mentioned. It's about how you do it and making it a priority and getting in the right role so you can have that. I mean, in my later part of the career, I had more life balance than I did earlier, and that's normal. I just think that's normal. Thank you.
True. Thank you, Bill. Mike, just coming back to you real quickly. Do you have another question to ask before I go to Miss Nargo? I'm hoping I'm pronouncing the name properly.
I just had a really quick question. So I almost got to the tail end of a computer science degree at UB. However, I didn't finish. Have you ever found the BS, BA distinction ever come up in your career, or is this mostly like a cosmetic difference, because the idea of going back and those last couple of BS classes, you know, it's kind of intimidating. You're kind of thrown into a deep end and you're like, yo, what is all this stuff? But I just wanted to get 2 cents.
See, Bill, you unmuted, so she
Yeah.
wanted to take it.
Yeah, thank you, Anishka. I appreciate it. So great question. Listen, if you're looking for a very high-end position with a very large corporation, you're going to need that BA for sure. If you're not, and you're looking for a medium to small size organization where you can add more value, there's pros and cons to a large corporation. There's pros and cons to a smaller corporation. And so I think it is cosmetic. I will tell you that when I've hired people, and I've done a tremendous amount of hiring, I could talk for hours. Having said that, it's not important to medium size to small size organization. It is important to larger corporations. I hope that helps.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Ms. Nago, I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. Over to you.
Oh yeah. Hello everyone. My name is Eric. That's my first name. I have two questions. The first one is you earlier mentioned that you had a great experience with coding, and I wanted to know, is programming is something that is essential for cybersecurity, and do you have to be efficient enough for it? And how much coding do you use in your daily life? My second question is, I know that tech is very male dominated. How have been your experience as a woman been getting into tech and cybersecurity? Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Oh, excellent questions. All right, so for the coding one, I'd say there's an expectation that you could at least read code, even if you're not someone who's like pumping out applications. It certainly is something that gives you like a leg up, but I know there are positions you can still get without being able to code. For example, like more like analyst type jobs.
Yeah.
But you still do. It will absolutely give you a leg up if you are stronger in that area. And then I guess for your next question, my experience being a woman in the field. It's a pretty loaded question and definitely a good one. I feel like when I've like pretty early on in my career, I did kind of bump into a lot of issues there, where it's just like little things, like maybe getting talked over in meetings or just kind of maybe not being taken seriously or having to like really assert yourself. Like, it certainly does happen. Like I don't want to sugarcoat it. I want to be, upfront with you guys. And that's actually a big part of why I like to come and do these. It's kind of my way of giving back. And it does certainly make me feel better because, like this is how we would truly diversify the tech industry, approaching it at the educational level. And then in my day-to-day life, where, for example, on my team, I'm one of two women on my team. I'm the only black woman on my team. I think the only black person on my team, so there's a bit of an imbalance there. But I think it's just important just to not let that discourage you because ultimately it's about, what you can do. It's not like what you look like or where you're from. And if you just work really hard, they'll notice it. And if they aren't noticing at your company, you will find one that does notice it. So, I find that, I go to a new role and maybe not getting listened to right away, but then they see the work I'm doing and that's what gets their attention and kind of helps me earn their respect and makes them listen.
That's true. And that's a great answer. And, thank you for that. And yeah, I mean, IT might be more of a male dominated environment, depending on what company you come to. But, women in tech, there's a ton of women in tech organizations that you could outreach to join them, to make contacts, get information about the field. And as Anishka said, you don't have to be the best developer in the world because there are other technical roles within development teams. We have a couple of analysts in our job, and our analysts have a key role to keep the developers honest. They build things, our analysts test the heck out of it. They look at the output or the product of that before we move it to production. So are they developers? No. but they have strong analytical skills to make sure that the developers are doing the things that we charge them to do. Okay.
Exactly.
Excuse me.
And then also just want to add, also in some companies they'll have, I don't know what to call them. It's kind of like being in an after school club or something, but we have like groups here at M&T for women, groups here for minorities at M&T. So some
Yeah.
companies will have those, and you could certainly reach out there.
Yeah, I would like
Exactly.
to add, Eric, that was such a great question. And if you think about it, the technology area, there's a lot of, more male on the tech side. Not that there isn't females there, but there's so much opportunity in the people and the process side that they need the dynamics of women in technology in all of those areas. Technology certainly, but also the process and the people side, so important, because the intelligence or the emotional intelligence, so many skills that that women bring. We need more women in this field, and I just think it's a great question, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for women.
And Eric, one thing I'll add to what Bill and Anishka are saying: connect with some other individuals, some professionals. Get yourself a mentor or mentors, not just one. Get a couple to help guide you in the direction that you want to go to, that you're most comfortable in. Don't just get into the field just to get into the field. You have to love and like what you do in order to maximize and show people what you can do. Okay. Every job isn't the perfect job, but you'll get there. Okay. So give me 2 minutes. I apologize. I'm going to have to jump off this call because I'm doing this during my lunch hour. But what I will have to say to all of you is thank you for the time that you've taken out of your busy schedules to come to see this lady, Anishka, and talk to her. We're here to help you and support you guys. But to be honest, you have to come to us and ask us those questions, because we won't know what we can do to help you unless you ask. And I'm here to help all of you, any of you that are in my classes. If you send me an email to tell me what you picked up from this lady today, I'll give you some extra points for the class if you're in my class. And a few of you know who you are. So send it to me. I'll get you some extra points because you took the time to come to this. The rest of the people that didn't, shame on them. And those of you that know me, I will help you however you want to. Ms. Nargo, if you haven't connected to anybody, connect with me. I'll help you. I'll support you. I'll get you connected with ladies like Anishka. And she's not the only one of us out there. There's a ton of them. You just need to know how to get to them. Okay. And we can help you do that if that's what you want. Okay. So I apologize that I have to jump because other people are outside the room right now, but please attend the next couple of sessions that we have upcoming. Okay. Over to you, Linda, Bill, and Anishka. You'll have to close us out because I got to run because they're looking at me with ugly faces, and Anishka knows what that looks like. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Theron.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Theron. Anishka, thank you so much. This is your second time with us, and you always bring great information for our students, and we absolutely love it. Again, this was a great conversation today. It wasn't just Anishka speaking about her experiences, but you, the people that are on the call, you want to know what she does. Some of you want to be where she is, and Anishka is the only one that can tell you how she got there. I can't tell you because I don't know how she got there. I would love to be there too. I'm going to connect with Anishka to see how she got to where she got to. Are there any
Linda,
final
I would
questions? Yes, Bill.
I would say that even your story is a worthy one as well.
You are so sweet. I'll pay you later. Thank you, Bill. Any other questions? Any other questions for Anishka before we lead out? Again, thank you all for everything, for being on this call. Peter.
Yes, thank you so much again. I don't want to take your time. My question was this to Anashka. I know you mentioned about there are people that you work with who doesn't even have degrees, but they have certificates and skills, right? And then I see you trying to pursue your degree, like a master's in cybersecurity. Like, what is the curiosity? Like, what drives you to feel like you want to have a master's and you already have the gift in your hand, a cybersecurity job that you enjoy, that you want? Thank you.
That's an excellent question. To quote, I guess a few managers I've met, some of them have said in response to me saying I'm earning my master's, you're like, your master's degree is the cert of all certs. So it seems, some companies will prefer that, over a cert, but it's not like a one or the other type of deal. Like ultimately, the higher level of education, so you have your bachelor's, your master's, and you have certs. Like those are all just more things that are going to make HR recruiters stand out to you. And then I guess the main thing driving me is just that I'm a computer nerd, and like I like that in my master's classes. They're more challenging than, the classes I took in undergrad. So it helps me keep the iron sharp.
Thank you. Basically, it's just like learning more skills, right? Is it
Yeah.
because cybersecurity is changing in the future, the way you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like because the classes I'm taking now, for example, they're based on what the most current technology is. And my bachelor's was quite a few years ago. Just, the curriculum's changing. It is a good way to help you stay current. And then if I find that in your master's program, it tends to be more focused. So, I have my software security concentration. So I've been able to take more courses focused on that. So courses getting into, at this point, like C and buffer overflow attacks, format string vulnerabilities, like the real nitty gritty stuff that I like to see.
All right, thank you.
AI is changing everything. Tools,
Absolutely.
etc.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Great. So again, Anishka, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation today. Thank everyone for being here. Please remember our next session is coming up on November 5th. And we're going to be talking about jobs. So let's come out and see what our guest speaker has for us. Again, thank you for joining, and we will see you next time. I'll see you guys.
Thank you guys so much. And thanks for all the questions today.